All right, welcome back. This will be a hopefully another fun episode. We're kind of at that point now where it's just like just kind of grinding away at the silver. We found a lot of good spots here at Mosquito. Gotten pretty good. Haven't really nailed down the white bream as much, but everything else we've gotten reasonably good at catching most of the species, especially for cafe orders. But to start off this episode, I did want to talk about skills a little bit. I was doing a little testing here at the end of the overnight hours, beginning of the morning hours, just making sure that white bream hadn't come back into the spot, and I don't think it has. At least not to the way it is when they're really biting. So let's talk about skills a little bit. You can see we did catch one bream off the dock there, a few rough. So right now at night, if you fish with worms, a lot of rough are coming in and a little bit of roach. If you fish with pearl barley, anywhere in this spot down here in the deeper areas, bream are really hitting good. And so it'd kind of be crazy for, to be this level at Mosquito and not go after the bream. If you've gotten to pearl barley, you'll catch a few of them on worms, but you can nail them on pearl barley. And then on bread, we're starting to catch roach and tench, and so that's what we've got going so far. So let's talk about skills. Maybe what we should do to talk about skills is we will get to that shortly. Let's move spots. Let's go to a spot that maybe won't be quite this high catch volume, and we'll put a little larger hooks and just try to catch some big crucians or gibbles or something for a little while. While we're talking about skills, our comfort's finally up enough that we might actually be able to do some digging too, but I will try to focus on skills once we get lines back in the water. Just can't bring myself to not be fishing while we're talking. I have really enjoyed making this series, though. I'm sure it as the other leveling series will eventually come to an end. But we're not there yet for sure. And it's been a lot of fun. Let's go back to our trophy spot over here. We got to figure out, maybe at Old Burg we can check and see like what's the status of night crawlers, because I'm curious about. Now, of course, eventually we're going to get to the point where we can. I mean, we're at 32%. So eventually we'll get to 35% here. And we'll be able to go back to some of these spots and test some boilies. See if we can't get trophies out of this spot. But all right, for now, what can we do here? Let's do 11 hook with bread. I mean, it's daytime. Bread should be really good. We'll throw in some crucian gibble mix. Oh, I do have an idea about some new ground bait as well, but that's not necessarily for this spot. All right, we'll go back to our typical 9 clip here. Let's just see how this little spot's treating us. And I think on this one we'll go again, size 12 hook, crucian gibble mix, and let's go with oatmeal. Let's just see what oatmeal's doing down here. Now, this goes for any advice or opinions that I give in this series or if you're in my stream sometime, no matter what I'm talking about, this is going to be true. But I bring this up as we're about to talk about skills, but I think it's especially true with this. What I'm about to say are just my opinions. Things that I have noticed from my experiences. Some of it might be things that I've heard. But remember, a lot changes in this game. And I'm not able to keep up with all the changes. It's possible changes happen that we don't even know about. And I've been playing this game for a long time. I have an old man's brain. And really, none of us have done enough testing to say much of anything for 100% sure. Maybe we've seen enough to say this or that seems likely or unlikely. But we'd be hard-pressed to say that any of this is for sure. Okay, so let's start off with, for new players, my advice on thinking about skills. The first thing I would say is don't spend any skills for the first few levels if you're not sure what type of fishing you want to primarily do. Now, you may figure out early on, I like all the types of fishing. And in that case, you're going to have a harder choice because you're going to be trying to figure out how to spread out your points. But you might find out, like me, pretty early on, I really like bottom fishing the most. And so naturally, if that's the case, then put a lot of your points in bottom fishing. Because when you get to be higher level and you start stretching your legs and trying out float fishing more intentionally than you ever have, or you really get into spinning, because trolling at Corey or Volkov is really fun, or you find a really good spot that you're spin fishing from, and you're like, yeah, I didn't really think I'd like spin fishing, but now I am. By then you'll have more points, and so you can spread it later on. But if you know, like, man, I'm just loving this feeder fishing, or I'm loving this spin fishing or float fishing or whatever, then you'll know where you should put your points. It is worth mentioning there is one category that does go across all three. So I suppose my first advice would be, if you're enjoying all three types of fishing and you are doing some spin fishing with feeder fishing and maybe even wanting to do float fishing to level that up to be able to get the Bolognese rod or match rig, then using a spinning reel is a decent place for you to think about putting some points. The downside of using a spinning reel is it doesn't give you any control of the fish that I know of. It basically gives you casting distance and accuracy when you're using a spinning reel. But remember, you'll be using a spinning reel no matter what type of fishing you're doing, with the exception of float fishing. Once you open up bolo rods, you will, because you put spinning reels on bolo rods. So the downside of putting points into this would be you're not really gaining control of the fish, you're not increasing your chance of a bigger fish or a trophy, but you are giving yourself more proficiency at just using that spinning reel. You can be able to cast it farther, you're going to be able to cast it more on point. That may not seem like it matters a whole lot in some spots, but believe me, there are some spots that if you can cast accuracy, you'll save yourself a lot of a headache and you'll get it where you want it to be. So some people really poo-poo this one. I do not. I think it's worthwhile. On a new account when I'm leveling, it's not something I'm going to do early, but if you look on my main account, I've got it. I'm pretty sure I've got it. If you look on my main alternate account, which is like level 28, 29 now, I've got it. So I do think it's important. It's just not something I prioritize early. So for me, what do I prioritize early? If you're a new player, what we've done on this account. I really like points in fishing with a feeder rod. I really like points in using a simple bottom rig. You're going to be using a simple bottom rig for a long time if you're doing a lot of bottom fishing, and that gives you, according to this, higher the technique, the greater chance of catching the trophy. Now again, how these statistics have worked has changed over time, but the way I read that, it still looks good to me. I don't know exactly how the numbers are working, but I like it. Fishing with a feeder rod is huge because this is giving you not only casting distance and accuracy, just like the reels would, but it's also giving you control of fish. It's going to help you get those bigger fish in. Okay, so if you keep using simple bottom rigs, then having these points in this makes all the sense in the world. There may come a time where you try out inline rig or loop rig and decide that you really like those. My personal favorite is loop rig. But remember, back in the day, you couldn't even use ground bait on simple bottom rig. Now you can, so it's not as big of a deal. But loop rig, as according to the description, it's suited for a lot of different things. And it allows you to have accurate and aggressive fishing, even in strong currents. But what I like about loop rig, and you get more of a description when you actually have it unlocked and you can read about it, but loop rig used to just be so good at holding fish on. So if you're fighting a big carp on one rod and you got another rod that's going off, or carp's not the best example because these days we're using carp rigs for catching carp. But see, back in the day we weren't as much. We were using loop rigs some. But anyway, if one fish is on, you're fighting it, and you've got another fish on, that loop rig had a better chance of holding that fish for longer periods of time. I'll be honest, these days it feels like feeder lines will hold fish forever. Like, we've probably got 2 fish on 2 of our lines right now, and they've probably been on there for a while, and they'll probably still be there when we get back, unless they broke our stuff. But hopefully they're still there. So that's just a decision you're gonna have to make. I would say with things like inline rig and loop rig, maybe try them for a little bit, see how you like the rig, and then decide if you want to put points there. I would not put points in fishing with a picker rod unless you decide that's something you want to specialize in. But that, just like feeder rod, is 7 more points. So you kind of want to do one or the other, not both, at least while you're an early to mid-level player. So let me just go ahead and mention, while we're here on bottom fishing, other places that I would put points as you move forward in the game leveling. Fishing with a carp rod, if you're going to do a lot of carp fishing, I think it's worth it. Just like fishing with a feeder rod, it's going to give you these same bonuses, except you're going to have it towards carp rod. The big question a lot of people have is, what about all of the carp rigs? What do I do? This is what I chose to do. I'm on my main account, I'm holding back some points just because, like, let's say I get into fishing for pike with jerk rods and stuff. I might want to put some points in that. So I've got like 6 or 7 points that I'm just holding to. So I don't have points in a lot of things that I potentially could. By the way, side note, remember that you only get 1 point per level until you hit level 20. When you hit level 20, you'll get 2 points per level. And then when you hit level 30, you'll get 3 points per level. And then by then you've got more points to really spread them around. But what I did was I put points in use of a classic hair rig and use of a classic pop-up rig. Okay? To me, that gives you a lot of versatility. The main 2 things we're using in carp fishing are the regular boilies, sinking boilies, sinking soluble boilies, and then pop-up boilies. Now, are there other types that can be helpful in certain situations, like the chod rig, like the snowman rig, even method rig, classic method rig, pop-up, the maggot snap-in rig, that was popular for a while at Amber. Yes, there's lots of other types. But for the majority of what you'll do between classic and pop-up, you can cover your bases. So that's 6 points, and you're kind of got carp fishing down as long as you've got fishing with a carp rod. So that's what I did. I might have a random point in using a bait fish rig, because there was a while where I was trying to do a lot of bait fish fishing. I might have a random point in maggot snap-in, because like I said, that was there. Now, some things overlap, like using a PVA stick and using a carp rod. If you do one, you get it in both. So some of these things do double up, but you won't see that till they unlock. All right, let's check our lines, and then we'll continue looking at other skills. Again, these are just my opinions. People recently have been asking me about skills. Where should they put skills? So I'm trying to give you a little bit of feedback, but your mileage may vary. The nice thing is everybody gets 1 free reset of your skills. No matter what mistakes you make, no matter where you put your skill points, I would not reset that thing until you're at least in your 20s. By the time you're in your 20s, you've probably played enough of the game where you're starting to get a sense of things. And if you really want to reset and kind of have a chance to like move points around, that's probably a good chance to do it. A good time to do it. All right, so we got some nice fish there. All 3 lines had a nice fish on. This spot continues to be good, especially in the morning and the evenings. All right, we got to get away from those things. It'll drive me crazy. Are we far enough? All right. Okay, so that was bottom fishing. Let's talk about spin fishing. That's probably the type that I know the next amount about. Float's my least. I would put points in fishing with a spoon. Again, better chance of trophy. You're going to use spoons a lot. Now, let me go ahead and say this. Early on, having points in fishing with a spinning rod makes a lot of sense. If you're going to do spin fishing, you're going to be using a spinning rod. Now, later on, so by the time you're at Corey, certainly by the time you're at Volkov, you may be rethinking that, and you may, like I do on my main account, I don't use spinning rods at all. I use casting rods. Ultralight is my casting rod. Heavy stuff is my casting rods. So I don't have points in fishing with a spinning rod on my main account. I have points in fishing with a casting rod. I'm using bait casting reels. I'm using casting rod. So that's where my points are. Early on, though, you're going to be using fishing rods. So again, this is one of those things where I think if you're going to do a lot of spin fishing, it's probably worth putting points in this. But just remember, when you do reset your points, we have a reset for free. Try to time that with your transition to using casting and bait casting stuff if you're going to transition at all. Some people do the highest level of spin fishing in the game just on regular spinning rods. It's really a preference thing. You can go either way, right? Now, in terms of the different styles, where do you put points? It's going to be all personal preference. You do so much fishing with a spoon. Like, I know right now for trolling, a lot of the wobblers are really popular, and I get that. And maybe they'll continue to be. I would say wobblers are probably the second most used behind spoons over the course of many months or even years. But spoons are still number one. Especially when you get into like casting from different spots. I mean, think about how many fish and how many records are caught on hunter lures. You know, I mean, there's all types of different spoons that over the time has just been the best of the best. So to me, fishing with a spoon is a priority. Wobbler as well. If you're really into fishing for char at Ladoga, you may decide to put points in Texas Reel. Besides that, I don't really know. If you start specializing in one of these things, if you really enjoy them, then yeah, put points. If not, to me, those covers your bases. So that's what I would do to cover your bases. I just don't know about float fishing. I don't know enough to tell you. I guess, to me, the most fun thing I've done with float fishing is once I got to the point of being able to use the match rod and match rig. So if I was going to put points in somewhere in float fishing, maybe that's where I'd put it. But that's going to be a long time down the road. I mean, you got to get 60%. If it gets really good fishing carp, you know, then you might put it in some of the carp stuff. But I don't know. I'll just have to say that I don't do enough float fishing to really be able to tell you on that stuff. All right, let's check our lines, and then I'll tell you where else I think it's important, even at early levels, to put points. And after we get through talking about skills, we will figure out what we're going to do. Maybe go catch some bream. I also am thinking about traveling to Old Burg. Maybe do a little bit of fishing there, just kind of see what we can see. But mostly to see what is available, because I need to know if the what stock they have at Old Burg. It could, before I make my next purchase on gear. It's going to be important for me to know that. I tell you, the bite rate down here is higher than I thought it was going to be, even during the middle of the day here. Okay. The other place, now, of course, let's just say this up front, making lures. If you're really into spin fishing, and even from an early level, you start making lures here and there, you may decide to put points in that. I still haven't leveled up making lures very high on my main account. So to me, that's not a place that I prioritize early in the game. There's plenty of great lures you can buy. Now, some of the best lures in the game may be the ones you make, especially towards the end, but I don't have experience with it, so I can't really speak to it. But so I don't think early on you're probably going to do that unless you're like, no, all I'm doing is spin fishing. That's my priority. That's my focus. Okay, I think you do want points in harvesting baits and ground bait. Cooking is completely optional. Actually, I don't even think you can put points in cooking now that I've said that. Embarrass myself. You can't really put points in any of this, can you? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even know if at max level there's anything you put points in, which is fine. So cooking is cooking. Let's don't worry about cooking. Harvesting baits and ground bait. Harvesting baits, I like at least putting a point in because it increases your chances of getting successful digs, and I think it increases your chances of getting multiple worms at once. Each upgrade increases the probability of harvesting red worms, also because it's possible to harvest several worms at once. So again, this is one of those things that, like, before you reset your skills, it's probably worth having it here. After you reset your skills, you might not put points back in this until you're much higher level. But I think it's a reasonable place to put points, whether you're low level or high level, to be honest. The other thing is making ground bait. I mean, I've got 2 points. One of my next points will probably go into this. Higher rated ground bait, theoretically, is more effective. That's what we want. If you're into bottom feeder fishing like I am, we want really effective, good ground bait. With 3 points in here, you will often create ground bait that is somewhere between rating of 7 to 10. With no points, you'll make ground bait that's complete junk often. You know, we're very low on the percentage of it, like a scale of 1 to 10, very low. But even just 3 points, once you max it out, like, I think you're only making quality 9 and 10 every time. It's what it seems like, at least. So it's probably worth putting it in there. But I like, if you're doing a lot of bottom fishing like I always end up doing, then I think a point or two early in this is good, and then that third point whenever you can throw it in there is also good. I don't know that I would do a second point in harvesting baits like at the level I'm at 13. Again, it's worth considering, but we're also getting to the point now where we're kind of past the hump. Like, we can go to Old Burg. Somewhere's probably going to have most of the things that we're going to want. I mean, you can't get night crawlers until 75% anyway. Now, if we were digging up, multiple night crawlers and had a chance to do that at like 40% or something, then maybe, yeah, I would think about it. But that's a long way off. So I'm not sure I'd put another point in that at this point. But ground bait for sure. So where are my next points going to be going as we're leveling? I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm thinking maybe classic hair rig. I mean, we want to finish doing these, so there's 2 more points there. We want to fish this one, that's 1 more point. And then after that, maybe classic hair, and then after that, maybe classic pop-up. We may get a picker rod, but I'm not going to put points in that. That's 7 points. I mean, I'm not going to even put 1 in there, I bet. Carp rod, not till after we reset the points. I doubt we'll put it there. Unless we transition to just doing carp fishing for some reason on this account or something, then yeah, it would be time to reset it and put it in carp rod instead of bottom. But I just don't see that happening anytime soon. So my next points are probably going into fishing with a feeder rod, bottom rig, classic hair, and then pop-up, as well as my next points going into another point or 2 into ground bait. That's probably where we're at next. Okay, so those are my thoughts on skills. Let me know if you have questions. I mean, feel free to share your experiences if you have different priorities on how you've done skills. Again, this is just opinions. I'm not saying that what I'm doing is right or anything. It's just, kind of how I think through it when I'm leveling accounts, and also what I'm basically doing on my main account. This spot still seems really good, by the way. And that is exciting that we're so close to classic hair rig. That is very exciting. All right, so what else are we doing? I mean, we've got some time before the bream start biting, if that's what we're going to do. Let's go check our cafe orders. That might direct us to to specifically get some kind of fish or something. I kind of just want to get some good fishing in, and then maybe bounce over to Old Burg just so we can check inventory there at Old Burg. We'll see what cafe looks like, and we'll go from there. You know, we might be able to get some better ones for this. It depends on where we fish at, but for now, I think this is good. Get some decent little silver for our crucians. We need some sleepers if we're going to do that. A lot of crucian orders and sleeper. I mean, that's kind of like, maybe we should just keep fishing where we were. It's definitely too early to go for bream. Let's see as the evening wanes on how good this spot over here is. We just saw how good the spot in the back was. Let's see what this one's looking like over here. I think instead of bread on this one, I want to use maggots. I'm sorry, instead of oatmeal. I said that wrong. Alright. So this is the ground bait I want to try. Crackers, bloodworm, and maggots with sunflower oil. I think this is going to be a really nice ground bait. A really nice low level. Oh, we need some more bloodworm. A really nice low-level, non-offensive ground bait that we could probably use on just about everything. Now, when we start going for carp, we'll change that up. We'll throw some corn in there. Corn also work in the tench, I would think. Going after tench. All right, now we're talking. Now we're getting some sleepers. We're up to 521 silver. I mean, we're just like one good session away from, maybe 2 good sessions away from being at decision time on our, what we're going to purchase. I hear those bells. So I hope that was helpful. Talking about skills. I know a couple of you have been asking lately about them, and your mileage may vary. And certainly if your play style is different than mine, I mean, if you've been watching my videos, you kind of know what my play style is like in terms of the type of fishing I enjoy, but you might have a different experience. We have not been getting bites at all on maggots. Just not, I mean, not compared to the bite rate of the other two. Alright, so let's make some more of that ground bait. I'm really feeling good about this ground bait though. Crackers, bloodworm, maggots with sunflower oil. Like, I think it'll be good. Especially for some of those fish species that aren't crucian gibbles. I mean, obviously, in these crucian gibble spots, it doesn't hurt to use crucian gibble mix, but... Alright, that's good. I don't know what the percentages are, but we get a lot of gibbles out of this spot. I mean, a lot. So I really want to use the fake bream mix with the sunflower base, not the vanilla base. So we need to make another stack of that potentially for the night here if we're going to fish a few more bream. I'm so used to it raining, I totally forget about digging. Alright, so let's go get one stack of fake bream mix going with the sunflower. So we want what? Maggots, millet porridge, sunflower base, cracker base, sunflower attractant. Isn't that right? Ground crackers, maggot, porridge, sunflower. And I'm not saying that the vanilla base doesn't work, but we call it the trophy on sunflower attractant, the vanilla attractant, sorry. I think I always have this debate when I'm doing a leveling series and I'm starting to try to make like ground bait for the bream. I know that vanilla flavoring works for bream sometime because of the boilies. But That doesn't necessarily mean the attractant's going to be best for it. The actual bream ground bait uses anise oil, and we just can't use that yet. Alright, so we'll give this a little bit longer while we make up the ground bait. We're going to go fake bream, crackers with sunflower oil. And by the way, even this would be a really good, like, standard ground bait. I mean, there's nothing in here that's gonna turn off most fish that we're going for, at least. I think the only thing is different is if you're trying to make something to specifically target carp, you might go a slightly different direction. If you're trying to catch commons early. I just haven't noticed any large gibble carp orders at the cafe. And again, I don't know if that's just like luck or... But I just haven't seen them. We're a couple short on the Crucian order. Which is too bad because that's a nice order and we're really close on that. It actually would make sense for us to go for that. Is there anywhere over here that I could catch that size Crucian on? That's like near our bream spot. Let's try... quite as far as I wanted. After we get this next gear set up, I might purchase a lantern pretty soon, which I'm not saying you should do that at this level because it's kind of a luxury item in some ways, but for the sake of light while we're fishing, it might be worthwhile for me to do it. Alright, let's see if we can get a few more nice bream here. The thing is, the bream, even without the cafe order, these are reasonably good silver and XP. All about that pearl barley. Well, why don't we fix that clip? I remember coming back to the game after I hadn't played it for a little while. Had all my nice carp gear out on my main account. I was trying to throw my stuff out and it was like hardly going anywhere. I thought like the game was bugged out or something was broken. Nope, just had a clip on there that was saved for months and months, and it's like a 7-meter clip. It's like, just looked like it wouldn't cast. Let's see, where are we on the map? I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to get lucky on big crucians or not. It's a roach. There's some red worms. I'm going to take a quick bio break. I'll be right back. Oh, look at that. I like that other people are trying our spot out now too. We're keeping up with the Old Burg folks on our #1 weekly. Some big catfish have already been caught. Lots of roach. Starting to wonder if this side over here is more roachy than our normal spots. Our little crucian gibble spots. Kind of a slow start to the night on the bream. Let's make sure something small isn't just sitting on that second rod. No, we're good. So this over here is doing pretty well. Bite rate's been pretty good. Oh, that's a crucian. All right, do y'all remember if I was just one short? This second line, even when we were fishing over there, we weren't getting any bites on this second line. It's like it's busted right now. The bite rate right here is crazy. That's a gibble. It's a roach, isn't it? Yeah, I wonder if something's different with the weather. We're not getting the same results this night that we did a couple nights ago with bream. All right, let's check that crucian order. I can't remember how many we were short. Might have just been one, or it might have been multiple. But that was a pretty nice order, so if we can hit it, we want to hit it. Okay, so now we're one short. It has to be over 350. And we're already at 54 silver overall. Even with as much like skill talking I've been doing, we're still making some money. Oh no, we got some kind of stinky bait on this second line. Very strange. Just be a crucian. That is a gibble. It's a nice gibble. Can't complain. Well, let's reset it if nothing else. Maybe I'll also put it at like 25 meters. Is that big enough? Yeah. We're good. We are good. That's like, what, 30-something silver for some crucians? That's amazing. That is amazing. Are any orders... Oh, 26 silver. Are any orders about to end? 21 hours, 4 days. Sorry, 7 hours. What did I say? 4 days? Is that right? Yep. 7 hours. So that one's going to expire 1 day. Just trying to see if we're going to get... I have some rough in our net. Just trying to see if there's any chance we're going to pop a new order before we leave. Getting some bad juju on this second line, though. Is it finally getting something? I just think this spot's going cold right now. Pretty standard temperature. I guess another difference is the rain, right? I mean, it was overcast and or stormy or rainy when we were catching bream here before. I mean, I've caught bream here now 3 different times before this recently, and it's all been good. Those mysteries of life. Clearly, it is not good right now. At all. Also, just want to catch a fish on this line to wash away its bad juju. Hey, we're getting a bite. That is great. See how that fish jumped up? I don't know. I don't know if that was a fish or our ground bait. I mean, our cage or something. That was weird. It is in a really shallow place right there. It might have just scared the fish away. That's how much bad juju we've got on that line right now. It just like scared its own catch away. Holy cow, this place is not catching fish right now. Okay. See, I was also catching bream off the dock recently, so I'm wondering if that spot will be better. Off the dock, basically. Wow. 1.6. There we go. Finally. Caught a fish on this stinking line. That's too far out. Oh well. See, that's where casting accuracy matters. That is not where we were aiming. This spot won't be near as good during the day, I bet. They'll get much smaller. It's amazing how big the crucian gibbles are at night compared to daytime in some of those spots. All right, let's see what's in this hole straight off from this cliff. As we drag the fish up the land here. Is that a roach? Hey, we got another point in bottom fishing. 33% even. We're getting there. Okay. So what's that worth? 7 silver. I'm sure that's better than selling them straight. We still only have the one sleeper. Missing some perch. Alright, we're good. Okay, let's see here. What can we open up to? I just want to check something. Alright. So pearl barley is $1.67. Okay. Let's get our free food. Sesva is $44.90. Okay. Guaranteed to have worms, right? Worms are $1.80. Fortuna feeder, $4.20. It's $4.78. And the Lacerti is $98.50. You probably know where I'm going with this. Let's go to Old Burg and see. See what the comparison is. All right, so we're gonna spend some silver here, 790, but it'll be free to get back. But let's go check. I'm just curious about some stuff here. And welcome to Old Burg. First thing we need to do, let's get our map. Now, pearl barley is $1.48. That is 19, like, so 0.19 silver cheaper. So groceries at Old Burg are cheaper. A Sezva is the same. Worms are $1.89. They were $1.80, or sorry, silver 80 at Mosquito. So they're 0.09 more. So a little bit more. Fortuna feeder was $4.78 at Mosquito. It's $501.90. So it's a difference of, what is that? 22.9 silver. So it starts to add up, right? Even the Lacerti, which is $98.50 at Mosquito, $103.43 here. So the bottom line is, on anything in the tackle shop, it's much more expensive here. Cheap red worms are also sold out here. So are all of the night crawlers. You have to spend a fortune to get night crawlers at this point. Does anybody know if Belaya has night crawlers? I mean, I bet they don't. They have a really small stock there, but I could be wrong. Next time we're at Winding, we'll have to check to see if there's any night. So basically, you just can't get night crawlers right now, is the bottom line. What about, there we go. I think that's the next reel we want, guys. The debate is between getting this Fisher Feeding Pro, but the comparison really is, do you want an Adriatica, which is a less quality, so it's not, doesn't have as good a quality, but it's got a nice max drag for its cost, 7.5 is nice, and it's a 6,000 size, so all kinds of spool room, versus a Sputnik Element Pro, which is more expensive, has less drag, is only a 4,000. It is a nicer reel. I think ultimately I'll probably want to try both. So we may get an Adriatica first and then try the kit on our second one, maybe. But I could also getting the Adriatica and then going straight to, well, it's out of stock here. The Proton Pro is also out of stock. I like the Pride 6000 a lot, but it's honestly a little pricey compared to the Adriatica. And then next is the Sabre. The Proton Pro is kind of the in-between. Like, it's not quite a Sabre in my mind. That's 3-star. That is 3.5-star. Maybe I shouldn't think of it that way. It's only 0.5 kilo less. They're both 6,000. Anyway, I think we're going Adriatica, which means I need to go ahead and get it while it's in stock here. And then we'll be saving up for, what are we going to pair? So that goes 7.5. So do we just save up for this? Oh, it's expensive here. It's not, that's right. It's a little cheaper than that at Mosquito, but basically that'd be saving for a while. Or do we want to get, I don't know. We've got time to think about that. I do want to get an Adriatica though. So we're going to go ahead and get one of these. I'm going to go ahead and buy it. The other thing I want to know is what leaders do they have here for feeders? Not feeders. What leaders do they have for feeders? There we go. Okay, so they have the 3.2 in stock. But they do not have, they do have 6.4, which could come into play. They do not have the 5.4 or the 7.7. It's very interesting. Okay. How strong is this rod? 6 kilos. We're going to do a little fishing here at Old Burg since we're here. You know, might as well, right? Okay, I can delete that note I was making. I just wanted to confirm. I knew that it used to be that Old Burg had cheapest groceries, but the gear was pretty expensive compared to Mosquito and Winding. And even Volkov is cheaper. But I just want to make sure that was still the case. The most expensive place, I think, in the whole game is Corey, right? For gear. Kind of wish I'd put together some kind of carp ground bait, because we could have like tried to catch a carp down here, but it'd be a little risky. So I don't know. We'll see. This is where we're going to probably use some of that new ground bait we made. So if you're brand new to Old Burg, I mean, this is always a good place to fish, right? Anywhere in here. Basically just almost the same way you'd fish at Mosquito. You can just fish right into here. Sometimes there's eels here at night as well. Sometimes catch carp and stuff. But where I'm wanting to fish is over here a little bit. And what I'm not sure of is, because a lot of people are doing float fish here. All right. Okay. So let's put some of that new ground bait. This should be it, right? Crackers. Yep. Okay. And let's do the largest hook we have. Yeah, we'll do the largest hook we have with potatoes. Just for a little while, and we'll just see what happens, right? Do we want to... Whoa! Okay, hold on. That is not the first time I've done that. Do we want to clip it? Sometimes this is a really nice tench spot, guys. I don't know if it is right now. All right, let's try maggots to see about the tench. We'll go with 11. Again, I'm going to put that like very basic. We're clipping at about 8 here. Probably could do 9, 10, but I'm doing 8. Could even do shorter. Could cast like right at your feet probably. And on this one, again, new ground bait. A little smaller hook, but let's try the bark beetle larva. Let's just see if we get bites on any of this stuff, and then we'll start rotating baits a little bit. Good time to dig. Okay, so this is where we are on the map. Now, the good thing about this spot, and actually, guys, I'm wondering, it may be that people are throwing like right there towards that 2-meter hole. Now that I'm thinking about it. So let's try here for a minute, and then let's try... I bet you anything that's what they're doing. I just don't know what the clip is. Can't be far, right? That is going down pretty well. I bet that is in there. So I'm used to casting over in this this mossy stuff for the tench, but I'm wondering, now that I see where we're on the map, I'm wondering if folks aren't, because what I had read was that people were doing float fishing here as well and having some good success. So, I don't know. We'll see if we get any bites at all on this. If we don't, we'll move them back there. Well, so far nothing, so maybe we should move them back. But yeah, normally when I have fished in this spot in the past, sometimes you get some really nice tench right in there. So that's what made me think that's what they were doing, but it is possible that they're in that 2-meter hole. We'll see. Oh, that's going to be a carp. Don't necessarily recommend you do this until you upgrade to that next one, but once you get to the next rod and reel, feeder rod and reel, like the Adriatica and then whatever rod we put with that, it becomes a little more feasible to go for carp, especially if you can get like small to mid-sized commons. If you're in a place and you just like you're getting a lot of grass carps, it's not worth it. But ooh, we almost snapped it. I just don't want to burn the reel up here. So the whole point of this is we're in the pond, so we have some protection against spooling and controlling the fish, trying to wear it out. But what we can't help is if it just totally burns our reel up. If you lose line too quickly like this for too long, you'll start to get that flame symbol showing that you're causing damage, friction, lots of damage to your reel. Let's see if we can, we have no strength against this fish right now. I am really okay if that fish gets off. Let's see what we caught here though. So we got a roach there. Let's put this back over here and kind of see a comparison. It's going to be a long process of trying to tire this fish out. Just try to put as much strain on it as we can without snapping our stuff. But this is what happens at Old Burg if you fish with potatoes. It actually can happen on a lot of baits. So one thing you want to be a little cautious of when you come to Old Burg, just beware. Common and the grass carp will all occasionally go after even baits that you're used to using without any fear at mosquito. So what time of day is it? Let's try bread in this spot too, just so we're getting a good feel of how this spot is looking. But there does seem to be carp here. So once we have the slightly upgraded gear, this might be a good place to try to fish for commons. We don't know if that was a common or grass, but let's see. Let's go with 12 and just bread. Let's just see what we catch here with bread. That was not a good cast, was it? I want to go a little farther than that. All right. Yeah, I mean, I want to try maggots a little longer because I'm just curious if tench are here. According to the Russian site, it looks like people were catching primarily we're going for carp in this spot. So I don't know that it's going to be great for anything else right now. That's a roach, which is what you'd expect off bark beetle larvae. All right, we'll let the bread soak a little bit longer, but let's just go back up to the bridge here. And let's just see how active the bridge is. Usually this is a really active spot. You can just kind of cast right in front of you. Again, we're going to stay with maggots at least for a minute here to see if there are any tench in the water. And what do we have on this one? We don't want that right now. Let's go with, yeah, let's just go with worm. Just kind of throwing anywhere in this spot. Sometimes you can even like clip 20 and go down one side or the other, catch some really nice stuff. But if you're float fishing still, this whole area is really good for float or feeder fishing, almost always. I've never really seen it not be pretty active. But the pond area, it's good for fishing. It also just sort of protects you a little bit. It gives you a chance to not get spooled if you do hook into one of those big carp. So it's a fairly user-friendly place to start if you're new to the lake and still have a little bit lower level gear. All right, we've got what, bread on this? Let's just try that for now. This is one of those spots where on my main account, the first time I leveled through here, you know, I would just come fish here for a day and a half or whatever, and you'd have 100 fish, easy, you know. Hit a few cafe orders. Did I not sell? That's weird. Okay. Guess we'll sell the fish here. All right, let's dig for some of those woodbridge worms. Success. A micro crucian. We could do that at Mosquito.
I can learn to understand.
Wow.
Wow. I was trying to see if there's just anything more active or recent here than the 1044 spot, which is, I made a video about that spot, but it's been, I don't know, probably a week ago or more. And I've heard that it has slowed down a little bit, but we might try it for a little bit. I hate to look. How long are we on this video at this point? Oh, we're really long. Okay. What time is it? 16:32. Maybe we should wait and do that next episode. I don't know. I might just try it for like an hour or two at the very beginning of bream time. But as you can see, you can just catch these, you know, same types of fish you'd catch at Mosquito or even Winding in the Winding Pond, even on the river to a degree. But yeah, be careful with that log. We just bounced that roach over that log. But it can be really good here, and it can be really active. Night can be really good. If you do get your hand on any... What's going on with that, by the way? That's a ghost snag, isn't it? Okay. The spot we're trying is down near where you start at Old Burg anyway. Fun fact, Old Burg back in the day was called Old Fort, and I think that was like a more direct translation maybe from what the name of this place was when it was just on the Russian servers before they had English servers. So back, I think, you know, when I first started playing, players that had been around for a long time at that point sometimes would still call it Old Fort or whatever, but it's been called Old Burg for a long time now. Let's check the cafe. Rough would be interesting. We got a nice little common roach order. So you see, like the orders, you're starting to get more silver for orders here, just in general. So 3 1 kilo bream, although there's only 5 hours left, so we got to watch the time. But 3 1 kilo bream would be really nice. That's 43 silver. But this rough order, y'all, that's pretty sick. And there's more time on that. 5 hours, so 70, 18, 19, 20. So at 22:31, it's over. Can we get 5 over a kilo? I doubt it. But let's go check it out. We probably won't be able to do that. All right, let's go to 1044. This is, so the most recent active bream spot that I know of was at 1044. We're going to go there now. I think on the third line, though, we'll put worms with a small hook and just see if we can't get some rough here. If you saw my video on my main account fishing this spot, I really like, I think I usually do about a 18 to 20. Clip. But some other folks were using more like 25 clip. So, your mileage may vary. It may be worth doing a little longer clip if you have the casting distance. There could also be white bream here. And as we get a little bit better gear and a little bit more comfortable at Old Burg, we'll try to figure out some different spots. A lot of the folks that are in my chat channel at this point are past Old Burg in their leveling process, so I don't have as much information coming in about Old Burg. And I know about down there near the pond, I think that's a pretty good spot for carp where we were. But until we get upgraded gear, like, we got no business going for those carp, as you saw. I'm going to go 20 with worms. And let's do some of our secret ground bait here. And we'll go 20 clip on this because we want it to be in that 5-meter hole as well. All right, this feels like a decent fish. It's over a kilo. All right, one down. What is it, 2 to go? We want this to be a white bream, not a regular bream. We do need to make more pearl barley a little bit. You know, we'll make a lot of pearl barley and oatmeal, I mean, at some point, but I'm trying to just keep digging as much as possible and get some of these, as many more points on digging as we can before we start having to spend serious silver on crafting baits. All right, this is number 2. I think when we catch number 3 bream over a kilo, we'll probably call it there for this episode if we can get it. And we'll relog real quick and go turn in the cafe order. That was a nice one, by the way. We're fortunate because there's a white. We're fortunate because the bream seem to be doing quite well on pearl barley here right now. There are times where garlic dough is far and away the best thing. And garlic dough does still work right now, but pearl barley seems to be competing with it pretty nicely. And it's just going to be a while before we can make garlic dough, so it's nice that pearl barley is working at the moment. We need one more here. We're running out of time. I do like that these white bream are biting, though. This would be fun to come out here, put 18 hooks on, and just fish with worms if we're going to catch this many white bream. Especially if there was a couple of cafe orders. That could be really good. All right, so this one is not over a kilo. It's also a crucian. Yeah, we are definitely running out of time here, folks. Also a crucian. Alright, it's got promise. Is it big enough? Maybe just barely. I think so. Holy cow. I think we can relog faster than we can walk. Our first line is just catching tiny bream. And our third line has only caught whites so far. If this is a white, this might be a marker again. But I'm serious. I think it'd be fun to try to hit some nice whites. That's a regular one, though. All right, let's try to make that cafe order. What do you say? I like that time pressure. We got to get it done quick. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I think we're good. What was it, like 40 silver? 30 something silver? It was more than the mosquito order usually is, I think. So the coolest thing that happened this episode may have been that we got that Adriatica, because now we're just figuring out what we want to save for in terms of what rod to pair with it. And maybe we'll look at the options real quick here before we wrap up. All right, sprint to the cafe. Bream, we had an hour left. Never mind. Yeah, 43 silver. Nice. Now, that would be a tough order to get. We'd have to get dialed in on them because we just weren't catching them big enough. But we might have, you know, if we stayed with it with 3 rods. If I figure out a white bream ground bait, maybe we could. Let's see how. Okay, 71 silver. So we're back up to almost 300 silver, and we've got this nice reel just sitting here waiting on us. So it goes to 7.5. So what's the minimum? I'd say the minimum rod we'd want to use is 10, and something like with 12 kilo would be in more of the ideal range. So let's look at what the options are. All right, so this one goes to 12.5. So probably the cheapest would be to get a Palmer, right? Wouldn't want to use Asteria. We're past Asteria. Palmer would be the cheap end, which we could get at Mosquito for a little less than that. This would go 14. So the benefit of the Fantasia or even the Percy feeder at 16 is you kind of feel like you could in a pinch use that with the next step of reel as well. So we're about 100 silver from getting a Percy. At Mosquito. The reason why I'm hesitating to get the Fantasia, honestly, is if we end up getting that other kit, then that would be 2 of those. All right, cool. Long episode. We got a lot done, and we got to explore Old Burg a little bit. Thanks for watching, and maybe next time we'll just strictly do some bream fishing at Old Burg or something, see how they really go all night. I will catch you next time. Thanks again.